It's great to be at TEDx and equally wonderful to be at BMS College of Engineering, an institute which has given the country so many creative luminaries. Pre-independence, I must add that. But I must confess that when I was asked to speak at this event, the first instinctive reaction was, hey, I'm not a celebrity. Isn't that what this talk is all about, calling celebrities, sharing opinions? Then when they shared the topic, which is all about explore, discover, grow, and evolve, I thought to myself that if I would use this as an opportunity to explore, if I were to be given this opportunity to explore, find out more about myself, discover any hidden aspects of my personality, and if that allows me to grow and evolve, why can't I use this forum to share the same with you? And when I say you, I see a lot of budding engineers, potential managers, and I thought, let me then try and connect the role of creativity in each of these themes. So in my segment, I'll try to explore, discover, grow, evolve, and see it from the prism of creativity. And why is that important, you may ask? Because if you were to pursue a career in either engineering or in management, you would agree that it's important to be creative. Creatively expressing yourself, because only then you get differential thought processes, you get insights which can be led up to innovations. So it begs the question, how many of you, young budding engineers and managers, think yourself as creative? Can I see a show of hands? Of 100, we're talking about probably around 20-25, that's 1/4, 25%. Isn't that a little strange? Especially in a career which requires and demands of you to be creative. And if I were to follow up with the question, when was the last time you had a creative idea? And the problem is this, the problem is if you were to articulate when exactly the idea generated in your mind, gestated in your mind, most often your answer and response would be, it was sudden. It was a sudden realization which hit me, and voila, there was creativity around me. And that's the problem. If one were to understand the entire process of exploration, how does it happen? It happens through a creative mind, it happens through an inventive mind, it happens through a curiosity-driven mind, it happens through a mind which is fearless. And that's the theme I'd like to explore throughout the 4 elements. A creative mind is indeed a fearless mind. And why do I say that? You have great exponents in history like Chanakya and Birbal, who are very creative, I'm sure all of you would agree. At the same time, they were very fearless. Fearless in facing the great emperors like Chandragupta Maurya or Akbar the Great. In more recent times, you have seen seasons 1 to season 5 of The Money Heist. I'm sure you'll agree the professor was quite creative, at the same time quite fearless. So the point is creativity something which is an innate born virtue, or is it something which can be an acquired skill? Can you become creative? Can you develop creativity within you? And the answer to that, my friends, is a resounding yes. It can be a skill which can be learned, it can be improved upon. It's something if you were to imbibe in yourselves, it can sharpen your own intellect and thought processes to be more and more creative in your life. And that's why I thought, let me bring in this skill set in today's topic. The aspect of creativity needs to be seen from the prism of various techniques which are available. And these techniques go back to its origin in psychology, its origin in management. There are various techniques, and you should actually pick one which suits you the best. It's a fit into your personality, something which you can imbibe in clearly. And I will share with you just a couple of tools today. Something which has helped me in my career through my 20-odd years in corporate career, in the last 8 years now teaching business school students. And this is something which I share with them during my courses as well, when I take up strategy and marketing sessions at a few IIMs. One thing which stayed with me, lateral thinking by Edward de Bono. This is an individual framework which one can absorb at an individual level. And the other one, which is more recent, which is by design thinking by the IDEO team in Palo Alto. It's again, it's a forum which probably you can use at project level, corporate level. So I thought, let me share these two tools with you. And again, the caveat is find something which suits you the best. So let me take up the first one of lateral thinking. Now, education, which all of you are going through right now, is more or less lateral, is more or less sequential, logical, vertical kind of thinking. And that's how we've been ingrained. Now, lateral thinking is not a substitute for the traditional logical way of looking at things, but a necessary complement. And I'll slightly deviate from the typical TEDx talk by actually allowing you to have a window into how the protagonist, Edward de Bono, actually articulated this. This is 60 years back, and it's still relevant today. Shreya?
One of the very important things about creativity is that the new idea, the creative idea, must have value. Far too many people who believe they are creative think that just being different for the sake of being different is creative. It is not, and that is what gets creativity a bad name. So if you look at a door and you say doors are normally rectangular, let's make a triangular door. Now, unless you can show value for that, that is not creativity. That is just being different for the sake of being different. Now, one of the reasons people are reluctant to be creative in general is that if you try out an idea and it doesn't work, that is regarded as a mistake. Now, a big deficiency in language, certainly in the English language, is we don't have a word which says fully justified venture, which for reasons beyond your control did not succeed. So anything which did not succeed is called a mistake, and people don't like mistakes because that stands in the way of their promotion and their career. Provocation is one of the methods of lateral thinking, one of the tools of lateral thinking. It is completely contrary to the opposite of our normal logical thinking. In our normal logical thinking, you can only say things which make sense, which fit our experience and fit in with what we've said before. With a provocation, there may not be a reason for saying something until after you have said it. But because it puts us down in a different position in the patterning system, it allows us to open up new ideas. Thinking outside the box means thinking for unusual ideas, being creative. The notion is that we are all within a certain box which is formed by the constraints, by our expectations, by the concepts we use, by the perceptions we use, and we play around in that box. So thinking outside the box means escaping from, breaking out of the box to change concepts, change perceptions, change constraints, change rules, and develop new ideas. It means developing an idea which would not have been expected in our usual behavior, in our usual thinking. So it's just another term for creative thinking, unusual thinking, or lateral thinking.
Key takeaways which are important for this audience is, yes, be different, but be different by adding value. Don't be different for the sake of being different. That's a large caveat. And as you've heard the last couple of speakers talk about learning through their own mistakes. So obviously there's a learning curve which one goes through this process. Don't tire. One thing which you need to understand is how, and as Edward de Bono mentioned in his video, how do you use information provocatively? And that's the essence of lateral thinking, the provocative use of data or information which we are ingrained with in our vertical thought process. And the second is challenging assumptions. There are various tools, as I've articulated, and you can read up some of them at a later stage. I will just go through one of them and do a short exercise with you, and I hope post-lunch your mind is still active. I'm asking you to challenge assumptions. Some of you who know it can probably park your thoughts on an answer later on, but here is a 9-dot puzzle. If I were to give you a pen and ask you to connect these 9 dots in one single motion, in 4 or fewer lines, mentally picture this. How would you go about doing it? And count the number of lines you're doing now. I can see a lot of hands waving around. I don't know exactly where the answers lead, but hey, here's the answer. One of the answers, getting outside the box and then connecting it in lesser lines. And is it possible to do it in fewer? Yes. The underlying provocation behind this is challenge the assumptions which lie, and we are having a plethora of assumptions around each and every nuance. And if you were to adopt such creative thinking processes, you will challenge each situation you're put into and take this as a learning curve and you improve on it. The second, which is more contemporary, is something which I'll intertwine with the second element of our talk, which is on discover. And one of my favorite authors, playwrights and poets, Mark Twain, Samuel Langhorne Clemens, a classical question which I always ask, is you will be disappointed with things you didn't do 20 years from now, rather than what you did. So throw off the bowlines, be comfortable in casting ashore, and explore and discover. IDEO is one such company which uses in their discovery process a human-centered creative thinking tool. I'll play a short video in terms of how David Kelly, the founder, who's now one of the founders of IDEO, as well as professor at Stanford, and created the design workshop in Stanford, how they go about using observation tools, interviews, empathy maps to drive creative thinking process.
Design thinking is an approach to creative problem solving. It's a human-centered path to innovation.
Hello, I'm David Kelly. I'm happy you're here to explore design thinking with IDEO. You know, so many people don't think of themselves as creative, but I think that's wrong. Everybody's creative. And that's one of the reasons we teach design thinking, because we think that knowing this kind of approach can unlock your creativity and make you feel capable of coming up with routinely wonderful ideas.
Design thinking starts with people. It's about putting human needs at the center of all we do. It's about simple mindset shifts and new ways of looking at problems through empathy and collaboration. For an idea to be both successful and meaningful, we use 3 lenses to bring it into focus: desirability, feasibility, and viability. This ensures we're creating something that makes people's lives better, but that's also feasible to produce and makes good business sense. There are many different phases of design thinking. We find it helpful to teach it in a linear way, but in practice, it's more like this. Design thinking unfolds in iterative loops, moving back and forth across phases, some taking much longer than others. To learn it, you need to try it out for yourself. The skills and mindsets of design thinking can help you tackle your biggest challenges and build your creative confidence. Once you put it into practice and make it your own, who knows what important problems you might solve.
And the essence of design thinking is this thought process, which is diametrically opposite thought processes. One is divergent thinking, and as a graph will suggest you that the great ideas rarely come from the mean. The average don't really generate great ideas for generating innovation. It comes from the outliers, and these are extreme outliers who can provoke you to think of different range of possibilities of use or non-use of a product or a service or an idea which you would want to talk about. And at the same time, if you superimpose it with the convergent thinking, you may probably relate to this experience when you go to movies, you come out, you're with a group of friends. What do you talk at the end of those 2 hours? You still talk about the movie. Why do you talk about something which you have just gone through 2 hours of experiential curve? It's probably because you want to relive and process what's happened. You want to go through a deeper level of understanding and a shared perspective and synthesize hours of conversation into specific, meaningful ideas. And that's the essence of design thinking, where you're looking at creating choices via the divergent thinking process and making choices by the convergent thought process. So now these are 2 tools which I have thought of, which I've shared with you in today's session. If I were to now look at the element of grow, and Emerson has rightly pointed out that what lies ahead, the future, or what lies past, is not as potential and potent enough as what lies within you. And this is where, if one were to understand, each and every one of us in this room, at a particular point in time, always in a comfort zone. For us to move to the next zone of growth, we have to traverse through our fears, our insecurities, our own thought processes which keep us down. Tools such as what we have discussed allows you to expand, acquire new skills, deal with challenges and problems more creatively, and then go to the growth zone where you can really set new goals explore different idea, thought processes. Again, as Robin Sharma has very nicely articulated, for us to grow, one has to have a destruction of our old habits. One has to then install new habits and integrate these new habits into our lifestyle. It's easier said than done, especially the installation process, something which is weaning away from habits, but if done, it really unlocks great potential. Once you traverse the third prism, you then get into the evolve mode, which is where the father of evolution has very nicely and rightly put it, that it's not the most successful or intelligent, but it's the one who are most adaptable. So the question you need to ask, how adaptable are you? And I want to leave this as a last slide. I don't know how many of you can relate to it. There are 24 different objects or elements of nature put over here. Obviously, growing involves more knowledge. Knowledge is power. Acquiring skill, those who use Google know that. Knowledge is power. But the more knowledge you have, the more you evolve. Here is an example I'd like to end with by sharing with you somebody who's probably a role model for all of us. This is Lord Dattatreya, and he's got 24 gurus which he has looked at from elements around him. So if you were to see the earth, he's learned from the Mother Earth the virtue of tolerance, despite being trodden over. He's learned from the wind to be totally detached, despite not being able to be confined in a particular position. He's learned from the moon how to handle phases of change, which one goes through in life. He's learned from the moth, which constantly tries and gets burnt in the fire, how to control your desires. He's learned from the child, the wailing, the small child, the creative child, how to express without any baggages of fear or such negative thought processes. So I urge you all to evolve, grow, explore, discover yourselves all the more again from this short video which I shared with you. All the best.